tactical, I think is the best way to describe it. It's not fast enough that making one minor little mistake is going to wipe your whole raid. The combat is slow enough and tactical enough that you can plan things up to several minutes in advance if you're watching your cooldowns on your bridge abilities and things like that. I don't know how many players will be in the high-end content. I think that the only released numbers have been like 30 plus, but we don't know exactly how many are going to be there. It's probably going to require a little math just to understand how to best use your skills and abilities and things like that. But I get the impression that no character is going to be too gimped. That whatever choices you make, you're still going to be able to make a difference.
Oh, well, that's good to hear.
All right. Well, thanks, Officer Twitch.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So that's just kind of fun. I thought we'd just hang out since now we don't have to worry about the timing and pacing for a show, you know?
Right, yeah. How long does it take to get from one end of a sector to another? I think probably the maximum you will ever find yourself in sector space if you're actually traveling is under 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a...
No, we lost the connection to Jody. Will bridge officers have access to the custom race creator? No.
Well, yes and no. Some bridge officers that you obtain are set as an unknown race, and those bridge officers will use the entire custom creator to add pieces.
But what I mean, but if you get a bullion, it's set as a bullion.
It is, and just like we mentioned,
but you can modify the heck out of the bullion, right?
Yeah, they can be like
really strange,
deformed looking bullion, but
with large bust sizes.
They're still going to look like a bullion
with long hair, blonde, or maybe brunette blue eyes.
I don't think you can give your bullions hair.
Oh yeah, bullions? No. I was thinking about my bridge officers though.
Yeah, Chris is kind of in love with one of his bridge officers.
I'm actually... Never mind.
Can we explain how subsystem targeting works? Not all that well in a bucket.
Can you respec your skill points?
Currently, no.
But they've added that sometimes depending on what's going on.
Yeah, and
can you respec your skill points?
Jody, are you there? Hello?
No.
Yeah, I am.
We're going to need you to mute the stream, please.
You can.
There we go.
Hey,
okay, great.
Hey, you're sending this video too? Look at you. I don't know if I have that as set as the actor.
No, actually, that wasn't meant to happen.
Oh, well, then I won't put it up on the live stream then.
Well, we're looking out your window right now.
You're safe. You're good.
There's sunny Oregon.
That's hilarious.
What's your question?
My question is just general, I think the term is grinding, where you're just killing ships as you go.
Uh-huh.
How does skill points work for that?
Everything in the game is objective based. So even if you're given an objective to kill a certain number of ships, once you've reached that certain number of ships, that is when you'll receive your reward. So it doesn't actually matter on a one-on-one basis that you're killing things. Now, each individual kill that you make does reward you with a certain amount of bridge officer skill points and occasionally merit, but they're like drops in a massive bucket. It's like 1 to 2.
Or PvP. Well, dude, I was getting bridge officer points
left and right
in PvP,
but it was 1 or 2 at a time.
Oh yeah.
And whereas even at the lowest rank, the very first mission that you did, which I repeated with a friend last night, yesterday, was like 63 bridge officer skill points and 60 something merits.
All right, I'm gonna hang up because I got to answer Paul's call before he hangs up.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling in, buddy. All right, Paul, you there? Paul, are you there? Hello, sir.
Hi.
Hi there.
I was just wondering how long it would take me to get
I can't hear him. I'm sorry.
No, I think he might be having some mic problems.
probably.
Try it again in a minute. See if you can get those. Try a test call. See if you can fix it.
The microphone.
And give us another call back.
So let's see here. This is the button here. All right, so that's my desktop. Oh, that's the 2 cam.
That's
the
desktop.
1 cam.
Uh-huh.
Nice.
That's us.
So I'll jump to this if somebody wants to call in
With video.
Now you don't automatically get on the, so I get to screen it. So you can't just be throwing something on there that you shouldn't be throwing on there.
If you call us in and it's your butt, it's not going to get on the stream.
No. In fact, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make Jeremy look at the screen and then tell me if it's okay to look. So that way, if it is your butt, I don't even have to see that.
Can you crash into other enemy ships or do you just bounce off? 99% of the time you just bounce off.
99% of the time.
Yeah. Because they didn't want to make collision too big of a deal, make you have to always be having to avoid asteroids and things.
You would hit asteroids all the time.
There is an ability in the game that you receive, I believe, as a tactical commander called ramming speed. When you fire off that ability, you become a gigantic kinetic missile. And when you run...
Kind of like real life.
Yeah. When you run into another ship, you just tear them to pieces. There is actually an early mission, early on, where the mission objective is to survive until reinforcements
Warp
arrive.
core breach question.
And the ship can't really be touched by your weaponry. But if you fire off ramming speed and run into them, boy, do you do some damage to that undefeatable ship.
No, I will not answer the questions about my Boff love. So there was a question about warp core breaches. Can you go next to somebody and have your warp core breach do damage?
Yes, I've actually used that tactic a few times.
Yeah, so essentially, if you know you're not gonna make it, if you know you're just gonna die, maybe you're like 20% hull, your shields are failing, use that time to set a course directly towards your bad guy, because when your ship blows, there's a good chance you might take him with you.
Yeah, especially if it's a slower ship, like a big slow ship. But we've got a call?
No, we had Paul, but he dropped.
So, there's like a 3.5 second delay between actually dying and your warp core going off. So you can't always catch them, but
my
it's fun when you
general
do.
quick recipe for getting in is get in there, fire off some phasers, kind of get things going. I have a tachyon burst ability where I can potentially mostly always lower their shields on one quadrant, and then make sure I'm lined up so the front of my ship's pointing at them, and I just unload the torpedoes as fast as I can as long as those shields are down,
Right.
and fire my phasers. Often, if I'm like in defense mode for my power set, I'll jack that up to attack mode so that way I get the most power to my phasers. So if their shields drop, I can do the most damage with my torpedoes and my phasers at the same time until their shields are back. All right, Paul, can you hear us or can we hear you?
I can hear you.
Hey, what's going on,
Can you hear
buddy?
me?
Good work.
Yes.
Yep, we hear you.
Cool. I was wondering on gameplay how long it would take me to play to get Starship Excalibur.
Let's see, do you know offhand which tier the Excalibur is?
I believe it's tier right after you get the first rank up.
Okay, let's see. An estimate, probably 20 hours.
I'm going to do it in 3.
No, you're not.
I'll be like Kirk at the
You're
academy.
not even a lieutenant commander
Shut
yet.
up, Jeremy. Some of us don't have 24/7. All right, so
Yeah.
does that answer your question, Paul?
Yep, that answers my question.
All right, I'm glad you got your mic working. Thanks for calling in, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, so all right, I'm gonna let that pass. I'm not gonna give you a hard time about making fun of me on the air, because we'll see.
One other question we got earlier was, can you cross-train skills from different classes on your bridge officers? Like, can you
it's tier 3?
Can you give an engineer a tactical skill? And no, everything as far as classes is very restricted, especially your bridge officers. Now, we said in a previous episode, I think it was our last live Q&A, that I'll tell you later, we have a call.
All right, we got a call. Can you hear us? Can we hear you? Maybe
Hi.
not. Hi. Yeah, we can hear you. What's going on? What's your question?
Actually, it's a stoked question. 'Cause I was aiming to catch you guys opening a show at 4 o'clock, but I turned it on and 19 minutes after the 4, it's already over.
I know. We did a quick
kind
one
of a quick one this week.
But we wanted to hang around because we thought some people might be trying to get through.
This is really the meat of it right now.
I'm actually recording this too, so.
Okay. Thanks anyway.
Oh, that was your
So-
question? Just to make sure that we'd gone through the show?
Yeah, I was calling to check out that, and then also one question about the end of the tutorial.
Okay.
Okay, can you only fly around like just the basic space around Earth, or can you go through the whole solar system?
During the tutorial or afterwards?
Right after when you get your own
I don't know if
ship?
can you go beyond the moon? I think you can't go past the moon.
Well, that actual little system, no, you can't go past
Earth.
the moon. But
That little system
I think
being
you might be
the
asking
solar system.
about how much access you have to the game universe right after you finish the tutorial.
Oh.
And it's not open-ended. I think that you only have access to the initial sector block, which includes quite a bit of space. Like I said, it would take probably almost 10 minutes to fly from Sol to the other end of the sector.
Yeah, there's
space.
certain areas like deep space that you aren't allowed to go into until a couple of things have been completed.
Right.
But you get to those pretty fast. All
So
right,
you
man.
do.
Thanks for calling
Yeah.
in.
Thanks. Been watching you guys since episode 9.
You rock, dude. Thanks so much. Yeah, I've seen you online quite a bit, so thanks so much for all the support.
Confederation used disruptors. Yeah, we already answered that before. Sometimes they're better than your phasers.
All right, we got Scott calling in. Scott, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, what's going on? We can hear you just fine, too.
I was curious about skill development with a single character. How far can you go with that? Is there a finite limit, or can you basically explore all the skill trees and take it as far, or do you have to basically create alts to experience the all the games and all the levels of it?
So are you asking, can you do all the science and then to go do all the tactical and then go do all the engineering?
Yeah, I hate to relate it to EVE Online, but similar to that, I'm looking to just play one character in this game and take it all the way for years to go, but curious if there's like a max level situation where I'm going to need to create an alt to kind of try something else.
Well, some of that is limited by class, and that's primarily ground-based skills. Each captain on the ground will only get specific skills, and that will depend on whether you're a tactical officer, an engineer, or a science officer. So if you want to experience all those, unfortunately, you will have to have separate characters. But you can experience quite a bit of that through your BOF gameplay. Many of the ground-based skills that a captain would get, those bridge officers will get. So there's a little bit of each. We don't know if there's an actual hard cap on how many skill points you can get at end game. We were told initially in earlier responses that there would be no cap, but then later on it was implied that there is a cap.
Are you saying you're not sure?
We're not sure. The most recent information seems to indicate that there is a cap.
Okay.
All right,
Great.
thanks.
Thanks a lot.
All right. The Snyders is calling in. We missed you, Heather. Heather, if you want to call back. What's going on, Snyders? Can you hear us okay?
Hey guys,
Hey
it's
there.
Kohos again. I do have a quick question. I just caught the very end of what Jeremy was talking about earlier about the planet killer.
That guy.
Now, me, I'm very deep into the canon of Star Trek, and that's the only thing I'm worried about this game. Tell me, do they have any kind of weapon or anything that will actually destroy the planet killer, or you just have to? I mean,
You don't want to spoil it, do you?
Well,
I
actually,
don't wanna spoil it. Not too much.
No, and I don't want to go in too far into it, so I'll just answer yes.
Okay.
But the way that it unrolls is really well done.
So they stay
even-
true to canon.
You know, honestly, that's one of my favorite episodes of the original series. Not so much
is
because
fun
of the
as
planet
well.
killer,
Oh, yeah,
but because
no.
of the captain interaction and everything like that.
No, it was
But-
just a solid episode, yeah.
But
It was a great episode.
so knowing that they took the time to actually give a real reason to be able to destroy the planet killer was really nicely done.
Okay, now since y'all been playing it, have they really stayed true to canon? I know in some form or fashion you got to have fun, have fun with the game and not true to canon. What would y'all say?
I would
How
say,
y'all-
the fact that this game takes place in 2409, 30 years after Nemesis gives them a lot of leeway to do things that would be inspired from the original canon. But that said, it's so much of it feels like a extension and evolution of where Star Trek would be 30 years from now. There's a few things in the game that as a Star Trek purist, I'm like, not quite practical. Like, Space Station K7 is still in operation. Now it's gone through a refit, but probably not practical that a space station of that. Well, maybe space stations. I don't know, but we don't usually see that a lot in Star Trek. And sometimes you see older class ships still in operation that
Like even the Miranda.
would not be in operation by the time Nemesis is on the air, let alone 30 years after Nemesis. But then
Right.
again, they're like refit, and they've sort of been re-engineered to be ready for a wartime. So there's kind of some things like that are in there almost more as canon nods as than they are following canon.
But the actual episodic content that does have references to canon is accurate. They took great lengths in going to some of the what you might call almost throwaway episodes of some of the previous episodes of the actual television shows and fleshing them out into complete storylines that you in STO will be able to
And I've said
pursue.
I've said it like too many times now on the show, but the good example is Starbase 24. That's named Starbase 24, even though it should be a space station. It's named Starbase because it was named incorrectly in the show or in the movie or whatever, whenever it was. And so
Right.
they've brought it forward into this, and it's near Kittimer, and that's that is a level of detail with that kind of thing that I would have completely missed. I wouldn't have caught that they hadn't followed canon, and they still chose to go that route there.
Right.
So.
All right, well, guys, y'all have put my mind at ease a little bit. So
All right, guys. Well, thanks for calling in, man.
we'll see an open beta. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that
You bet.
I'll be there
Yep.
with the rest of you.
All right, sounds good, man. Thanks.
And we got another call from Shake.
Shake, can you hear us? Or Shakes with a Z? Are you there? Hello?
Shakes, you're
once?
on with Stoked.
Going twice. And all gone.
Oh.
But we missed two other calls, I think, during...
So yeah, call us back. The line is open now.
Yeah. Klingon gameplay, is it fun? Jeremy, you want to take that one?
No, it's terrible.
No, shut
This
up.
is the worst game ever.
Yeah, okay.
It's incredibly fun, and not only fun from an actual mechanic standpoint, but also there's a lot of story.
Oh,
there's a lot of nods to the Klingon traditions and everything.
There was a
that
question...
They're fun,
There was a question regarding...
which we'll get to later.
Yeah.
because Paul's calling.
Paul's calling in. Go ahead, Paul.
Hey guys,
Welcome back.
I just contacted my friend Jacob. He had a question
Uh-huh.
about an early episode you guys are talking about that the 360 controller could be used to play Star Trek Online.
Right.
How does it work?
All right, Paul, I'm going to hang up on you and take Heather's call because you tried a bunch, but we'll answer your question before we go too much farther.
Yeah, have you gotten to plug in your controller yet?
No, I haven't. I've got one, though, so I will try it.
This is all that I've heard, and this is secondhand because I don't have an Xbox 360, but that it works, but you have to go through a lot of remapping process and maybe third-party
guys, love the
software.
show.
Hey there, Heather. How are you?
I was wondering about the uniform customization side of things.
Sure.
Pips, comm badge, the uniform itself.
Right. We covered some of that in our Star Trek Online preview we just did, but we're going to also do a tutorial on it. It'll be one of our first tutorials. I think maybe the first.
Character customization might be the first. Yeah.
The first, but so we'll answer probably in depth there. But comm badges, I think you get 4. You get a science.
But they all look like the same chevron, the same
Right,
Starfleet chevron.
right.
They just have different
Or no
insignia
comm
on the-
badge.
Yeah, you can choose to not have one.
Uniforms, though, there's quite a bit. You get like a bunch of stock ones that you can tweak the colors and settings. And like, I gotta admit to you, I'm not very creative when it comes to this stuff. So like, every time I see somebody else's uniform, I'm like, yeah, Jeremy really, he did a good job. Like he did, like I mentioned earlier, he did like a motion picture themed uniform set. And I just like I did.
And all my bridge officers wear it.
I'm like, this looks like it could be a Star Trek uniform. That was like as far as I got. But if you're creative in that area, you can really go far.
Yeah. When you first create your character, you've got access to, I think it's either 8 or 10 different uniform templates, each with 3 or 4 different areas that you can pick colors from. And the colors are classic red, blue, green, or red, blue, gold, and black hues from previous costumes. So you're not going to be making pink uniforms, unfortunately.
Oh yeah. I did actually try to make a pink uniform because I did a girl character, and the girl character I thought, I'd do something cutesy, and no
Did
pink.
you also give her the cute stance?
They do have a cute stance, or what? No, flirt. I think they call it. And they also have an animal stance and a buff stance.
Yeah.
So you can make a real. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Did you have any other question?
No, thank you though.
All right. Thanks for calling in.
It's so funny to watch the chat room go, "Oh my god, a girl!" as soon as her voice came on.
Yeah. They don't get to see those very often, apparently. All right. So anybody else want to call in? I was looking. There was a question. There was a question in the forum. Do you remember? He's like, I'm not gonna be able to make it in, but if you guys can answer my question, that'd be awesome.
Oh, somebody asked me one in the actual Star Trek, the Cryptics chat room. They asked me what the device slots mean on the ship chart, and those are basically all the devices that I've run into, and this might be universal, but I'm not sure, is just batteries. And basically, how we've said before that you have different power levels. When you click one of these device batteries, it fills that particular power level up to 100, I think. It fills it up. And so if you use a weapon battery, but you're in a defensive stance, then all of a sudden your weapons are super powerful, even though your shields are also at full. So they're little consumable items is basically what the devices are.
So Weasel X in the Jupiter Colony forum asked, I was wondering during the Q&A if you could answer a few questions about my mind since closed beta. How is the exploration of content of the game? Is it as random as they say, or does it change every time you go off and explore?
Well,
I would say it depends.
It does.
So I had an episode where the area I was going to was always randomly generated. Like I could beam down to a planet, and I think it was like there were several different planets, and I think they were generated randomly. And then if I left that sector and came back in, it was new stuff. But there's also times where you go and it's always that location. Like if you always go to K7, you're always going to get K7. Same with Deep Space Nine. And there's different major areas, just like there's major areas in Star Trek. There's Klingon. There's major Klingon things in the Klingon space.
I was just owned in the chat room. Apparently, Gozer is answering some questions for us that we haven't had time to get to.
Oh, awesome!
So thanks, Gozer.
Mike Linux in the chat room is asking if he supports OpenGL, and I think it's DirectX only. Gozer might be able to answer that question, but
yeah, he might.
I don't know if it's going to run under Wine.
Oh, somebody asked earlier which type of video card you have, just in case they run into a similar driver issue. Is it an ATI or?
It's a GTX 275, I think.
Okay.
All right, we have Ross on the line. Hey, Ross, can you hear us? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, we can hear you too. Do you have a question?
Have you had any missions that involved you going into weird space anomalies like back in time or alternate universes?
Yeah.
Sort of stuff?
You realize that this is a game set in the Star Trek universe, right?
He hung up after he asked this question. He's like, I'm getting off the line. Yes. I actually haven't read any space anomalies, but I saw some screenshots. We just did I think it was last episode, one of them, I mentioned that is a space anomaly in the background. It was for one of the Cryptic original ships. So that is a space anomaly there. There's also the Guardian of Forever is in the game. I'll just leave it at that. It's awesome.
Yeah. There are I've encountered some space anomalies too.
You know, every time,
like I said, it's Star Trek. You
Every
can't
time
really
I
do it
this is
without.
actually funny, that Guardian of Forever mission. Every time that I read the haters and I start getting a little bit like, the game's not gonna be that fun. The game's just click, and I start getting like, oh no, what if the game isn't that fun? Like I've already played it, and I know it's fun, but I can't help but think that. And then I remember back to the episode that we played that had the Guardian of Forever in it. And that was crazy cool.
It was awesome. It was a lot of fun to do with the full group too, because some of those battles were epic. Although I have to say, you go back in time through the Guardian Forever, and you get your face ripped off by 200-year-old Klingon ships.
Maybe. All right. The Shakes is calling back in. Can you hear us, buddy?
Yeah, I'm back, man.
All right, we can hear you.
Mic wasn't configured.
That happens.
Anywho, I was wondering about crafting, man. Is there any in the game, any classes that can do crafting?
I'd like to ask, too, what would you be looking for, just out of curiosity?
Out of crafting?
Yeah, out of crafting.
Well, I played Earth and Beyond. I don't know if anyone else has played it, but what you do is when you craft in Earth and Beyond, you buy stuff, you tear it down component-wise, and when you rebuild it as a crafter, you get a better quality piece of equipment, like a beam or a reactor or an engine.
Cool.
Yeah, that is a cool crafting
system.
system.
Anything, from a vendor. Nothing vendor made is worth a crap. You almost always want it rebuilt, and that's kind of what I was hoping for.
That's cool.
That's a good idea, and I really liked Earth and Beyond's crafting. But what we've got in Star Trek Online right now is not complete. The actual creating item process has not been implemented on the version that we can play. I hear that it's been internally, but not
and this
for
is
us.
Where Memory Alpha comes into the gameplay too, right?
Yeah, Memory Alpha is kind of the crafting center, and what you do is all around the entire universe, every system and sector that you go into will have these occasional anomalies, and they're basically just go over here and scan something. But when you scan it, you receive a number of items, and those items are of different classifications, and then I'm assuming, because this part is not in the game, you take those items to Memory Alpha, plug them into the system, and then that system will tell you what you can create with the components on hand.
Because there's little items everywhere. Like every time you enter a system, there's little items that you can just pick up and add to your inventory.
Mm-hmm.
And the missing piece so far is what to do with those. But like Jeremy said, and we don't know yet, but we're staying tuned. And I had not really in my mind visualized what I wanted to do with crafting, but I love the suggestion that you just brought up there. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it definitely keeps crafters crafting.
Yeah, for sure.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right, man. Thanks for calling in. Okay, so I think maybe we should start wrapping up because we've got to edit this show and we've got some other stuff we got to do.
But we're working on some things that I think could be really big for both our show and the fans of this show. So not only the tutorial videos, not only the new...
All right.
We'll answer Aaron.
We'll take Aaron, and I think Aaron will be our last call.
But we've got another few things that are just in the works that we can't really talk about just yet.
Hey there, Aaron. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, guys, I sure can.
Right
I
on.
love the show, by the way.
Thank you, sir.
Quick question. Since it's all one big, massive server now, what do they have for us that want to role play? Because normally, that's not something I'm into. But dudes, it's Star Trek now.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and one server makes role-playing difficult because... I'm not asking because I don't know.
Well, now this is my suggestion for this, and this came up on the champion servers as well.
What's the limitation?
I recommend that players take it upon themselves to say that, like, instance 7 of anything is the roleplay instance.
Oh, okay.
Self-police it and say
I see. So that way, anyone in that area is in character.
Right.
I see. I see.
Now, there's nothing in-game to encourage mechanics like that, but it'll really be up to the player base to, I think, encourage that from other players.
Okay.
And, do they let us set up bios and stuff like that?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And you, one cool facility, too, is as a captain, you also have a captain's log, so you can journal, and you can also just take notes of, where you left off and things like that. Mm-hmm. But you can also use it as a full captain's log, start date, et cetera, et cetera.
Uh-huh.
Today we entered the blah system and did blah.
Now, this is something else that I actually want to eventually ask somebody at Cryptic if it's going to be used. Maybe Gozer can answer me. But there's... On the Champions Online site, each champion that you create gets their own social page that includes their bio and a bunch of stats about them. And I'm curious if the captain's log is going to be eventually implemented into a similar on the STO side of things. I'm really hoping so. I think that'll help roleplay immersion quite a bit.
Apparently, it's now official. Instance 7 will be where the roleplaying happens.
Thanks, guys.
All right, man. Thanks for calling in, Aaron. All right, so I think.
And also, of course, Gozer mentioned ship bridges are a great RP tool.
Okay, I'm going to shut down Skype in 5,
4.
Of course, there's a delay. 3,
delayed.
2,
and then we'll give it a second.
All right, Skype is shut down. All right. I think we'll wrap up here, everybody. I want to say, big thanks for the turnout. You guys are awesome. We've got a ton of people. Let's go see how many people we have watching. I got to get up for that.
All right. Let's see.